We have a severely unhealthy relationship with government. It is quite toxic, where we have no boundaries with them. This reflects upon all of society. People feud over politics, dividing with one another, aiming to be the ones who hold the strings, if not the ones being pulled by the strings, and violence is used to back every law to demand compliance. We can get out of this mess, however, by studying toxic domestic violence relationships in efforts to maintain individuality and setting boundaries with care in the middle. Boundary setting is a vital skill that ensures healthy relationships with others. Without healthy boundaries, we can either have such rigid boundaries that we don't allow people to get close, or such non-existent boundaries that we give too much of ourselves to others. Without effective boundaries, unhealthy or even toxic relationships can develop, leading to severely impacted mental health and well-being. We are often not taught how to set boundaries, or even that they are important. Effective boundary setting is linked to happier relationships with others, better self-esteem, reduced symptoms of mental health issues such as depression and anxiety, as well as a happier, more fulfilled life. School, religion, and government, intentionally or not, or subtly or not, giving us this toxic trait of being afraid of other people's individuality and to drop all boundaries. Individuality is what gives us divinity, and it can be attained by continuously learning and knowing who you are. Personal individuality and personal boundaries, while respecting other people's personal individuality and personal boundaries with care in the middle, is truth. Personal individuality is the sacred mother aspect, and personal boundaries is the sacred father aspect. Care is the sacred child aspect, and morality is respecting people's boundaries. We as individuals have every right to set boundaries with every single relationship we have, and that includes government. Government is not God, no matter how much anyone believes that. We need to remind people that they have the ability to set boundaries. Ask them or yourself, have you ever set a boundary with any relationship in your life? A parent, child, spouse, coworker, boss, relative, friend? What do you do if that person violates your boundaries? Do you no longer associate with them? How many chances do you give them? How long until you leave that relationship altogether? Even at your job, do you have boundaries that, if violated, you would be willing to quit? Why is it not okay for your friends and family to violate your boundaries, but it is okay for government to do it? The more people that we can get to understand this dynamic, the more we can wake people up to the reality that government consistently violates our boundaries. Our relationship with this entity needs to end. Trauma has been used on us on a large scale. Why? Because it scares people into dropping their boundaries. Why are we being scared into dropping our boundaries? So that we are easier to control. The science of creating a slave. 1. Remove individuality, and 2. Remove boundaries. This is an article submitted by an anonymous user, which I'm glad to read for them. This is a very powerful, important topic and perspective, much related to our other article and video that we did on how government is sort of an addiction. People are addicted to politics and playing this game, and it's not actually serving people. They think they need it in their life. I must have it. And there's a lot of mentalities behind here, but there is one most dangerous and indoctrinated belief, which is statism. And this is what basically creates government in the very first place. Statism, or archonism, think archon means ruler, so anarchon means no rulers, or monarchon means one ruler. Statism, or archonism, is the belief that there is such a thing as authority vested in certain human beings, magically giving them the right to rule over other people. This authority means that certain people, who we call government, have the moral right to issue commands to those whom they rule, those under their jurisdiction, and that their subjects or slaves have a moral obligation to obey the arbitrary dictates or laws set by their masters. Most simply put, statism is the belief in the legitimacy of political slavery, and more specifically, it is mental slavery toward the state. Mental slavery, commonly considered the most dangerous form, has been detailed by a number of philosophers, authors, researchers, psychologists like Stanley Milgram, and historical figures as self-enslavement. So you're enslaving yourself, your own mind, and therefore the body can never be free. Democide, closely related to this, is known as death by government. This is known to be the #1 cause of unnatural death. 133 million deaths pre-20th century and 262 million deaths in the 20th century, for a total of 393 million deaths. And this does not include the combatants killed in the 350 plus wars between governments since 1800, or the 40 million plus international and Civil War combatant death in the 20th century. I mean, that's just insane. The number of people killed by their own governments in the 20th century was more than 4.5 times greater than the number killed by non-governmental murderers, which raises the question of whether government should be counted more as a source of security or as a source of danger. Never anywhere in the history of the world has government only protected the rights of individuals. It has always done the opposite. Systemic wars only happened because people, millions of people, followed the orders of one or few people who they saw as authority. And that can also be applied to some piece of paper that the country calls a constitution. It's just a piece of paper. It has no authority. People believe in its authority. That is right there the cause of the problem. Now, if you want to know the solution, we have pages about this, tons of resources. If you want to send us your article, feel free, get involved. I mean, you see, there's so much we have to talk about, so much I can speak. I can barely get it out of my mouth at times. But go to theliberator.us, theliberator.us, get involved. Thank you very much for watching.